Put it up full mask. This has not been used since 1992 for good reason, by the way. So Trump threatens to invoke the Insurrection Act against Minneapolis while ICE continues to terrorize communities and even murder an innocent woman. Trump is considering the Insurrection Act. This would allow him to put U.S. military on American streets. Trump made the announcement on Truth Social. If the corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists, he's talking about Americans, by the way, peaceful protesters, from attacking the Patriots of ICE, who are only trying to do their job, I will institute the Insurrection Act, which many presidents have done before me, and quickly put an end to the travesty that is taking place in that once great state. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. Mass protests have erupted throughout Minneapolis since ICE agent Jonathan Ross fatally shot a local resident, Ms. Good, whom the Trump administration smeared after her death as a domestic terrorist. Was this always the plan? And so Melanie D'Arrigo, executive director of the Campaign for New York Health, says she thinks so. The Insurrection Act was always the plan, according to Melanie. And Minneapolis is the test case. They sent ICE in to terrorize and attack Black and brown communities to provoke a response that would then justify deploying the military domestically in blue cities. This has never been about immigration. We talked about this on Indisputable a while ago, that the ICE enforcement policy was never about immigration. And if you say nothing as they are knocking on your neighbor's door, you won't have neighbors to say anything when they're knocking on yours. So now you see them knocking on everybody's door. This was not about immigration. There's more. The Insurrection Act has not been used since 1992, when President George H.W. Bush invoked it at the request of then Governor Pete Wilson. That was the California governor, to quell riots that had broken out in Los Angeles after a jury acquitted police officers who were caught on camera ruthlessly beating Rodney King. As protests continue in Minneapolis after the murder, Trump is now considering sending ICE to Maine, but Governor Mills is not having it. Take a listen to what she said.
Look, Maine knows what good law enforcement looks like, because our law enforcement are held to high professional standards. They undergo substantial professional training, and they are accountable to the law. And I'll tell you this, they don't wear a mask to shield their identities, and they don't arrest people in order to fill a quota. To the federal government, I say this: if your plan is to come here to be provocative and to undermine the civil rights of Maine residents, do not be confused. Those tactics are not welcome here.
The irony of it. Republicans, conservatives, they used to be the party that said less federal government and more local control of government, especially law enforcement. And now they have a president that occupies the White House, flies the Republican banner, who literally is utilizing the federal government in order to take authority away from state and local governments all across the nation. The irony of it, once again. And let me be 100 with every state, with every local jurisdiction. It's great that you have professional law enforcement. We want you to have that. We want you to have good, corrupt-free law enforcement. This may come down to manpower. You see, right now, the federal government, i.e. ICE, they don't have the manpower to go against Chicago PD, cops in Maine, etc. They don't have the manpower. Not yet. Not yet. How are they hoping to get the manpower? By loose recruiting. So they have decided to relax some of the prerequisites to become an officer of ICE in order to increase their numbers, because it may just come down to manpower. And if that be the case, I'm reminding all states again, you have constitutional authorities invested in you. And part of that constitutional, or those constitutional authorities, those multiple elements of the Constitution at your disposal, you are empowered. You are empowered to relax laws if you need to for the sake of recruitment too. Now, I wouldn't go as far as hiring individuals like the administration would hire. But I think it's fair to consider. Now you have local police chiefs having to say clearly they will arrest federal agents in their jurisdiction. This is unheard of, but substantiated by court rulings back in the 90s. Cops can do so. This is one of the tools at your disposal, has to be utilized. My point is, you can't leave anything on the table in this kind of conflict, because he's showing you clearly where he's headed. Okay. Maine Governor Janet Mills was among the leaders in the state who addressed reports late Wednesday that the Trump administration plans to send federal agents, including those with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, to cities such as Portland and Lewiston, and said unequivocally that the violent masked officers have unleashed on Minneapolis in recent days will not be welcomed by residents and officials. Trump has largely been targeting the Somali population in Minnesota amid a social services fraud scandal in the state in which some Somali people have been charged and convicted. He has called for all Somali immigrants to leave the U.S. on Tuesday. Trump said the Somali scams had happened in Maine too. Maine has a significant Somali community, including many people who have become U.S. citizens. The population is largely centered in Lewiston and Portland. According to people familiar with the administration's plan, immigration operations in Maine were, quote, being designed to arrest and detain Somali refugees for reviews that could last around 30 days in, quote. Jamie, I know you see the play.
Yeah, and I find it even comical that he's bothered researching which laws he could assert to get the military involved in domestic cities, because what difference does it make? He's already treating ICE like a paramilitary force without any sort of much of a check on his excessive overreach in federal authority. I would say so. They shut down the investigation in Minnesota. It said, we're just not comply with local law enforcement. And this kind of issue spits in the face of federalism. That ICE agent committed a crime in Minnesota. He should be under the jurisdiction of the Minnesota law enforcement. They should have arrested him for violating, and he also violated several federal crimes as well. You don't get to shoot somebody in the face 3 times as a federal agent without that being a crime. But they're unmasked, they're masked, unbadged, brown shirts in the street. So why is he even bothering, pretending like our government is still a functional situation? I mean, essentially he has loosed them on whatever city he wants to, and they're ratcheting up their violence systematically and exponentially. When they're not shooting us in the face, they're snatching up random people in the streets, taking them captive and just dropping them off. I mean, there was I can't remember what state it came out of, but they essentially kidnapped a Target worker. He was a white man. He said something that they didn't like or didn't answer a question that they didn't like. He snatched him up, dropped him off somewhere else just because. And I don't know how much worse Donald Trump intends for it to get. I suspect substantially, but he's already doing it. We're here. The nightmare that we all predicted in 2024 when he got reelected is here. This is what it looks like. There are no more subtle, slight ratcheting up of fascism. He's just jumped feet first into it.
Right. Yeah. And he has multiple years to go.
Right.
Other side of this.